The fog knows your name. Today, it spoke a new one. Welcome. Listen carefully. I woke to a silence that did not simply lack sound. It glimmered with threat. Not loud, not cinematic, but thin, like a crack in a mirror through which another space leaks in. The room they had placed me in was narrow and smelled of old pine and wax. Outside the window, the fog lay thick, like a material you couldn't brush away. It didn't rustle. It watched. I didn't understand at once what inside me trembled. Only when my fingers pressed against the hardened wooden windowsill did it come to me. The world here was arranged differently. Yesterday they greeted me with bread and smiles. Today, their smiles felt like an exam. I stepped outside, and the fog embraced me, gently, deliberately, like a bundle of hands feeling along a stranger's back. In the square, children played hide-and-seek. Old men sat with bowls of tea. Women sang quiet songs, everything hitting the same notes, rehearsed to automatism. It was a scene of ideal kindness, and I believed in it, because I so desperately wanted to believe. But beneath that mask was something dry and cold. Not anger, not cruelty, but the habit of doing terrifying things so calmly that the fear dissolved into routine. He approached me so softly I flinched. The mentor, tall, with a voice that seemed carved from wood and polished by warmth. "The fog brought you," he said, and there was so much certainty in those words that at first I thought they were meant to comfort. During the day he led me through the houses. People offered food, a place by the fire, a shelf in the cellar. They called me theirs. I ate bread, and it felt like the warmest bread. I drank tea, and peace seeped in. My heart, which only yesterday beat with distrust, began to slow. This place had its own logic, its own order. And in it, I thought then, one could live. But in the corner of my mind, a shadow held tight. That door on the edge of the village, peeling, boarded from the inside, the one everyone avoided. By day, it practically didn't exist. By night, quiet steps went toward it, and faces turned away. Curiosity, my worst trait, pulled me toward forbidden things stronger than fear did. The day the unraveling began, I found something I wasn't meant to know. It happened by accident. I wandered through the supply sheds in the back, where old tools, rags, and boxes with long-ignored labels were kept. The light there was lazy. Dust lay in a thick layer, and the air smelled of vinegar and old paper. I moved a box. It trembled and revealed a narrow hatch in the floor disguised as a plank. My hands knew quiet movements. I opened it, climbed down, and found myself in a small burrow that didn't seem meant for people. On an old table lay a notebook, the cover worn, the page edges darkened from use. I stepped closer, and in the candlelight my eyes fell on the lines. They were lists. At first, I thought it was bookkeeping. Names, dates, notes, harvest, barn, provisions. But the columns wavered and shifted. Day, night, returned. In the remarks column, in a neat and steady hand, stood notes that chilled my heart. Given, light eaten, taken, debt paid, took a liking. And my name, my surname, written so plainly it felt as though the pen had touched the page seconds ago. Beside it, a date, tomorrow. And under the date, a single word, took a liking. I reread the line several times, and each letter settled in my mind like teeth in a jaw. The word repeated and rang. Took a liking. The space around me contracted, the air squeezing out of my lungs. I flipped further and found photographs, faded, corners bent. One showed a man smiling, the same pleasant smile I'd seen in the square, but beneath his smile there was emptiness. Beside it, the note, "Returned 2003, silent." Another showed a woman with a child's toy. Next to it, a black line, thin like a healed scar. Returned, not the same. I closed the notebook and understood. This wasn't a record of bread. It was a register of life, a ledger of those who had already given something of themselves in exchange for a warm hearth and a roof. And their return meant not rescue, but alteration. And worse, I saw, at the end of the pages, notes written in red ink. Returned, smiling, smiling. The word echoed in my head as though the air itself pressed it onto my tongue. A smile is proof of a bargain. A wave of nausea hit me. And yes, in that moment, the unraveling began. Because knowledge itself turned out to be a key. I stepped into the square with the notebook hidden under my clothes, and the world looked the same. Children, laughter, bread. But now I saw differently. I saw how people looked at me not as the newcomer, but as someone already informed. An old man handed me a bowl of soup, and for a split second held my gaze. There was no surprise there, only weary apathy and a twitching regret. "The fog sees whom it wants," he muttered so softly it sounded as though he were speaking to himself. I wanted to shout, to lay the notebook in the middle of the square, show every note, every date, shake the fabric of their orderly kindness to pieces. But the words stuck in my throat, and the people around me looked at me with an expression that said, "This is not for you." Their indifference was not silent agreement. It was silent protection. They knew and had accepted it. They refused to disturb what kept them fed. That night, everything accelerated. The fog, which until then had only breathed and stirred the leaves, gained intention. It seeped into the cellar where I had first seen the bound man, and filled the ritual circle as though awaiting a meal. But when it rose, it turned toward me. Not a face. It had no face, but a direction, like an icy beam, pierced me. Something inside me clicked. A mark. Took a liking, became fact, and now it, the fog, marked me in return. A straight line of cold slid down my spine as though someone wrote my name with an invisible pen. A seal. Delivered. Unapologetic. I ran. The fog followed not as wind but as attention. It knew my steps, the exact speeds noted in that ledger. It knew who tried to flee before and how they returned. The people in the square didn't hurry. They looked at me the way one watches a chicken suddenly break from the flock. Puzzled, almost pitying. No one shouted, "Stop!" No one chased me. They simply didn't care. They knew the fog had noticed, and that decided everything. The mentor stepped out calmly, as if he had been waiting, and said, "He has taken a liking to us. He is ours." His voice was warm. I heard in it that same calmness that turns wrongdoing into routine. I wanted to attack him, shake the certainty out of his eyes. But instead, I collided with the fog's breath. Close, almost tender, and I felt something pull me backward. Not physically, but from within. Memories I had not yet lived were beginning to fade. I ran past the edge of the village, hoping the forest would shelter me. But the fog knows no fences. It stopped at the border where other lands began, as if respecting a boundary it would not cross. Yet it did not release me. It turned and wrapped me in its attention, soft, gentle like an old friend's hand. But in that touch was not care, but claim. The villagers stayed in their homes, their windows, like eyes, watched me with cold detachment. They didn't care, because they knew. The fog takes those it chooses, and that is the price of a shared hearth. I stood there, feeling the seal on my skin, the inner mark the notebook had confirmed. Leaving was physically possible, but spiritually, no. The fog would not let go. It had taken a liking, and now it hunted my memory, the noise with which I might disturb its world. I left, but I did not escape. Sometimes, in the night hours, when the wind carries the scent of damp moss and old paper, I feel the fog nearby, studying my steps, listening to my dreams, gently placing a hand on my shoulder and whispering things I never asked to know. The villagers? They do not care. They live on as they always have, because they know. The paper records, the fog chooses, and someone must pay for warmth by the fire. And now I know. Knowledge is both curse and beacon. I learned what I was never meant to know, and that knowledge began an unraveling that cannot be undone. The fog did not want to let me go. It took a liking to me and decided, this sound, this face, this fear, now belongs to it.